Welcome back to the Opportunity Zone. I'm Nate Armstrong. I got my co-CEO and co-host, Mr. Chris Lavin.
Hey, everybody.
Hey guys, lots happening right now. Obviously, there's been some unfortunate war that's been raging for the last couple of weeks now, but we've got some news for the home front that's important. Did you know that the American dream is now on a monthly lease?
Yeah.
People renting. We're going to discuss that and why today. Additionally, the gloves are off officially. Jerome Powell, Fed chairman, he's been challenged in a big way by an important prominent player in the housing space. The FHFA director directly is calling him out. We'll get into the stats and why that's happening as well, and why one of Silicon Valley's smartest investors is betting on rental apartments. All that and more in today's Opportunity Zone. If you're new to the show, this is the show where Chris Lavin, successful Mr. Investor, successful real estate investor, and successful business builder, and myself,
Man, blessed by God.
blessed by God. I like that. Let's give credit where credit's due.
Amen.
Okay. This is where Chris and I get to break down what's actually happening in the news. So if you're an investor or you're considering investing in real estate, this is the show once per week you do not want to miss. So the way that we start these is we go back in time a little bit. We cover a quick passage from the good book, and then we jump right into the content. And today I want to give a quick history lesson, some geography layered in here. We've been talking a lot about the Middle East the last 12 days or so, at least all the mainstream news is because of what's happening between Israel, Iran, and now the United States. But there was a time period right after Jesus Christ died that a man named Paul started traveling and taking the word north. And he took it to this region of Europe in Greece, to a small city called Philippi. Now, Philippi, for all of you guys that like history, this was the hometown of Alexander the Great's dad, okay, back in the 4th century. So that's how it got his name. His name was Philip, and so that's how it got its name. Well, there was a big battle that went down here in 42 BC, and the city gained basically a decisive role with the Romans because the Romans won, and there was this brutal battle between Mark Antony and Augustus against Brutus and Cassius, because if you go back in history, you can see that they were the assassins of Julius Caesar. Anyways, because the city got this little cornerstone on the map, what happened is Paul goes up there to preach, and they're a very disciplined group of people because there's a lot of former military people there from the Roman Empire. Anyways, this church starts. It's the first church in Europe. And this is what Paul said about it. And this is the important part. Paul said that the Philippians, that's the folks from this region, that they're steadfast with faith, joy, and partnership in the gospel. That's found in Philippians 1:3. He also goes on to say that this group of people supported the ministry of Paul. They're the only group that supported the ministry of Paul that's noted in the Bible. And I got to witness something last night, a bit of a modern day Paul going to the Philippians. And what I saw was Mr. Chris Lavin and his lovely wife, Karen. They won an award. And if you guys have been following Chris for a minute or two, you know that he's rarely speechless in his life. But you can see that this camera moment caught a speechless moment. It's because an entire busload full of people came in last night to present the Sunshine Award to Chris and Karen. And what that is basically for their benevolence, for their good deeds, for the positive ripple that they've been making in lives of other people when they desperately needed help. They won this award. And so I just want to say congratulations, Karen. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank
It's an
you.
honor to be there and see that, man.
Thank you. I didn't expect that coming. Choke me up. Thank you.
And Chris, if it's okay with you, I'll say the blessing today.
Absolutely.
Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity. Please just let everybody under the sound of my voice pick up the investment wisdom that they need today, and also carry on the work of Chris and Karen. Let them be an example for all of us. Let their positive ripple that they're making in the world with all of their profits, let that be something that all of us can do too. You are the ones that hold the keys to all of our success, and we wanted to listen with 2 ears. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. All right, Mr. Lavin, we are going to jump right in, and we're going to start over here. We have Mr. Scott Bessent I just have to find what happened to our Zoom window because I need to be able to share it with sound. And it completely disappeared on me. Look at that.
Yep.
We have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. You see where it went?
No, it's right there. Yep. Go, you gotta click on the top right, I think. Yep, up that one. Nope, maybe I'm
I
wrong.
didn't do it. That's okay.
Can you
Well-
stop our screen share there, team?
Stefan, Philip, if you could stop my screen share, that'd be amazing. I just need to be able to see the whole thing. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to share Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He's talking about a lot of important data that's happening in the economy right now. And for you as an investor, it's important to understand how this data, the trigger points, affect interest rates. Why? Because interest rates are what drives the amount of the cost of capital. Let's hear what he says quick.
That a lot of Democrats are in favor of tariffs, but now that President Trump is leading the charge, they can't be. And so they call them the Trump tariffs. And that all these predictions have just been baseless and a flop, and nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to admit it. That the CPI, the PPI were both 0.1% last month. And we had, which was the cumulative was the best number since 2020. And the month before that was the best number since 2021. We haven't had a recession. As a matter of fact, the economy is very strong. I think that a lot of Democrats are in favor of tariffs, but now that President Trump is leading the charge, they can't be. And so they call them the Trump tariffs. And that all these predictions have just.
All right, Chris, let's help dissect this. So basically he's coming out saying, hey, we've got good economics. Inflation's down, it's best since 2020. PPI is down, it's the best since 2021. He's saying we're not in a recession.
Correct.
Everyone who predicted recession has been dead wrong, and he's saying the economy's strong. What are your thoughts?
I agree with him 100%. There's a lot of politicking going on. There's a lot of hype in the media. But listen, this guy's got a vested interest or a history that makes him want to look out for the American people. His family, I watched an interview, or may have been even further on in this interview, where he talks about he's looking after our money or the government's money the same way he wishes somebody looked at it after his family's money. His story is that his family went broke twice. And the horrors or the struggles that were around that, he remembers that, and he does not want that to happen to the American people. So this guy is really conservative. He's really smart, and he's got a mind and a heart for service. So, he's just telling the truth as it is. That's it.
Yeah, he literally started working at age 9 when his family went broke the first time. So he doesn't want America in debt anymore. So I think his heart, like Chris said, and his focus is in a very good space, a space of service for this country for the long haul. Let's switch gears over to Mr. Scott Cherner. This is HUD Secretary. This man is in charge of all of the Section 8 programs. He's in charge of all of the welfare programs that are tied to housing. He's tied to opportunity zones. Chris and I have been saying this now for a few weeks, actually probably almost 2 months now. We've been talking about this. If you're getting into the Section 8 business as a landlord, be careful. Here's what he says. Able-bodied adults account for 85% of enrollment increases in welfare programs over the last decade. We need a paradigm shift. And so what he's saying here, Chris, why don't you break this down for us?
What he's saying is, if you can work, you need to go work, because right now you're not. I'm not the type to be a fan of any of our government officials. I love this guy. I'm all about drug testing. I'm all about some kind of program where if you want to collect unemployment, you have to prove that you're looking for a job. I think the same thing should apply to Section 8 housing or government-assisted housing, to keep people honest, right? At the end of the day, we're not keeping people honest or accountable. And what's happening is there's a generation of people sitting on their couch playing video games, teaching their children that it's okay to sit on their couch and play video games. With that being said, we're never going to get out of this situation. And it's a horrible, horrible trap to fall into. So I like this guy. He's kicking people out, saying, hey, you got to go to work. And that's the bottom line. I love it.
When I was packing up to move from Milwaukee, Wisconsin down to Florida, this is going back 4 years now. The mover, he was working solo that day with one other guy part-time. He said, "Yeah, I used to have my son and all of his friends." And I'm like, "What happened to your son?" It's like, "Oh, he got a government check and from that COVID stuff, and now he doesn't want to work anymore." Like, no kidding. And I remember just that startling thought, like that's what we're training this generation to do. But Scott, and it's actually embedded in the big beautiful bill they keep talking about in the media. They're going to be pulling a lot of that back.
Yeah.
They're going to be forcing able-bodied people to go back to work. So if you are looking at a deal right now where it's relying on government subsidies, Section 8 vouchers, subsidized housing, look hard. Maybe you just run away. That's what Chris and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
We're just not taking those deals because
Nope.
we know what the next 4 years looks like already.
It's scary.
Okay, speaking of big, beautiful bill, this is the tax relief. If you need a tax break, if you are someone making decent money and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want the IRS taking it out of my pocket anymore, pay attention to this next part. We're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill. And for those of you that invest into real estate, know that there are significant tax benefits that come from it. And there's been 4 holdouts in the Senate basically saying, I can't pass it, I can't pass it. And one of the 4 may have just cracked. You guys can listen.
Sometime in the month of July. Something that you could vote for.
I think we can do it before the August recess, yes.
There, he said it directly right there. He believes that they can do this before the August recess. So sometime in July, Senator Johnson, he was one of the 4 holding out. He's saying that he thinks it's going to get done. Chris, what do you think, man?
He was outspoken opponent to this bill, and now the tides have changed. Excuse me. Now the tides have changed, and he's all about it. Again, 90% of this stuff is about political posturing, and these guys trying to get some airtime on TV. I think he got his airtime, and now he's like, okay, I'm okay with the debt ceiling situation. There's some challenges, but we're going to get it done. That's a dynamic shift in what's going on. Remember, as real estate investors, one of the big things or advantages to real estate is the tax benefits. This puts our tax benefits way back up where they used to be in 2017 when the Tax Cut and Job Act first came out. This is a big, beautiful bill.
And so we can't call it a tax credit because that
Yeah.
wouldn't be what the IRS says. Your IRS or your CPA would say that these generate passive losses. It's a terrible name though. Don't
Yeah.
think of it like that. We call it depreciation dividends. Okay. The reason is because when you invest into a multifamily property, I want you to think of it more like the IRS is not the penalty box. The IRS is an incentivization factory. They're trying to incentivize you to do certain things. They need more affordable housing.
Yes.
They need you to stimulate the economy by investing. And so consequently, there is a huge part of investing in multifamily that equals, I can't call it a tax credit, but I'm going to call it depreciation dividends. If you want to pick up depreciation dividends, then hang out with us on our deals. As a matter of fact, team, if you wouldn't mind putting our link in the chat, if you'd like to book a call with our team to talk about how you can unlock some of those depreciation dividends by investing in a multifamily property, you could use the link that's in the chat, or if you're on social media, just type the word call in the comments, CALL. All right, next up, Mr. Lavin, is we've got to talk wage growth. A lot of people were like, wages, they're stagnant. Actually, the last couple of years during the end of Biden's almost 2 years, wages even fell in some categories.
Yep.
And now we're seeing wages jump right here. Biden was down almost 2 points. Trump in 2025 is up almost 2 points. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so you need to look at this a little bit more big picture. It was down 1.7, now it's up 1.7. That's 3.4%. That's a huge swing, right? So while this is great, this is indicative that the economy is strong. People are making more money, things are getting better. But you don't hear that out of a lot of people's mouths. One of them by the name of Jerome Powell. But fact is the facts. The facts, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, and wage growth. Remember, we said it here about 6, maybe 9 months ago on this show. We were talking about what would it take for the housing market to recover. And we were talking about, or for people to get back into the buying mode. And it would either be wages increase, housing prices come down, or interest rates come down. And we're starting to see now wages increase, which is pretty cool. I also think a big factor, let me know your thoughts on this, wages, because we're now saying no to some of the folks that were here without a proper working permit.
Correct.
Now they're being sent back home,
Yep.
deportation. I have to believe that that's going to benefit the American worker more.
Well, let's look at that, right? So bottom line is this. If you're in this country illegal, you're a criminal. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you're in this country illegally, you are a criminal. Illegally means you broke the law to get here. I'm not talking about legal immigrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. These people don't have the papers or the proper papers to work. And here's the terrible part. There are Americans who are supposedly upstanding citizens that are taking advantage of these people's illegal status, paying them cash well below what they should be being paid. So if we take that whole situation out, now the criminals in the United States, or the American criminals, can no longer do that. They can't pay cash. They have to have documented workers now. So that's going to increase the wages of the people in the lower end of the job market. And since those people are now getting employed, it's making jobs a little bit higher up go up in a little bit more pay, because there's not that guy that's willing to take that lower pay for that same job anymore. So the unemployment's going down, wages are going up. It's a beautiful thing. But I'm gonna say it one more time. If you're in this country illegally, you have broken the law and you are a criminal. I'm not talking about legal immigrants in any way, shape, or form. I've been accused of a few things on this show, so I want to say that one more time. If you're in this country illegally, you're a criminal. And that's the bottom line.
Okay, you got Kate. Kate says, amen. All right, let me switch gears on us again. I need to talk, you started talking about our Fed chairman,
Oh,
and he's now, it's not just from the outside where he's getting heat. You guys got to pay attention to this one.
yeah.
It's actually from the inside. His board of governors. So kind of like his boss. I don't know if you'd call it his boss or not, but this is the board.
Yeah.
This is the board that steers the Fed. This is who Jerome Powell reports to. He's now got one of the governors saying rates have to be cut. He's saying as soon as July. Christopher Waller, he's been appointed for since 2018 or so. He's now saying rates have to come down. And then this is where the gloves come off. You've got Bill Pulte. Let's hear what he says.
Of a Fed chair. There's so much money at stake, Maria. Americans are being hurt by this man. He needs to resign. Okay, we have
We're spending
I better
more
go
on
back
the
to the
interest
end,
on the debt than we are on spending on defense.
That's right. You know, and he talks all the time. He says, oh, we're a data-driven approach. We're a data-driven approach. Well, what data is he looking at to keep up rates? He's looking at no data. He's looking at his own hate, in my opinion, for President Trump, which is disgusting, is not representative of a Fed chair. There's so much money at stake, Maria. Americans are being hurt by this man. He needs to resign. Okay, we have inflation that is at 2% thanks to President Trump. He's holding these rates, the Fed fund rates, at 4%. People's mortgage affordability has been crushed in the last 4 years. People have to pay double what they had to pay compared to President Trump's first term in order to buy a home. He needs to lower rates, or he needs to step down, and he needs to do it now, not before the end of his term.
Well,
So those are some heating words. The gloves are off. We got fighting words on the table here.
Don't get me started on this. I have been saying this from the very beginning. Listen. We got to hold people accountable where they need to be held accountable. This battle of wills started with Trump, President Trump, I shouldn't be disrespectful, said to Jerome Powell, you're going to do this and you're going to do this. And Jerome Powell just went, I don't work for you, son. I'm not going to do anything. And it became this battle of wills, two egotistical maniacs going back and forth at each other. And you know who's suffering? We are. Powell is absolutely in the wrong. Sure, Trump delivered the message in a way that was, typical Trump, big and bold. But the reality was the message was right. We needed these rates to start coming down a year ago. We needed to start pulling this stuff back to start stimulating the economy even more to get the growth that we need. But no, Powell's drawing this line in the sand and he's standing there with his chest stuck out. But he also made promises and commitments like Bill Pulte was just talking about. He made commitments to certain data. If unemployment went down, if wages went up, if oh my gosh, my brain just went into neutral. Prices, inflation. If inflation pulls back, we're going to lower the rates. All of those things have happened, and he's not doing what he said he would do. That's what Pulte is talking about. I don't know what data you're looking at, because the data that I'm looking at checks all the boxes that you required. Now let's do something. And now his board of governors is telling him he has to do it. Next, his board of governors are going to start saying, "Hey, there, Mr. Powell, you might want to go find a new job."
So I've been trying to do a little bit of more of a data-driven approach to this and try to remove all the emotion of the battle of the wills. So I've been looking at some of the comments that are made, and sure enough, Pulte is right. Jerome Powell did make those statements, and the data is on Bill Pulte's side. It's not on Jerome Powell's side. Jerome Powell should lower rates. But then we dug into the data on actual interest rates around the world. And I'm just going to do a quick scan over this, but there's only a couple of countries, Russia, because they've got sanctions, and Turkey because of just some of the instability. But the rest of the majority of the rest of the Western world, their rates are actually lower than ours. They've been cutting. Australian, Canada right now is at 2.75. Even China is down to 3% right now. Europe is at 2.15%. So while all these other countries have been cutting, we've been holding on. Japan's at 0.5% right now.
Swiss is at
0%. Yeah. So the United States is holding on for probably longer than their. Next week, we're going to bring a detailed analysis to you guys. I started doing it a couple days ago, but I didn't have time to finish yet. But we're going to go through and see whether the Fed has been right or wrong at when they actually cut rates. And we want to know what you think. Do you think they're typically right or wrong at the timing to cut rates? We'll unveil the truth of that next.
Hey, let's ask that question now. How many people in our audience right now believe rates should be cut now? If you do, put now in the chat for me. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, we got some smart people here.
Yeah, you guys are good.
People are paying attention.
You guys know.
Oh, here we go with this now too.
Okay, next up, we need to talk a little bit about what's happening with multifamily occupancy, and then we also need to talk about what the cost is to live in a house, to buy, because they're saying that living in a house, this is not living in a beachfront mansion, this is living in a normal average house, is now a luxury good. What does this mean, Chris? What are they talking about?
And let me vocalize this again. They're talking about like a middle America, Kearney, Nebraska house. The basic house is a luxury. So it was that previously 87% of the median income, right? You had to earn 87% of the median income in 2004 to buy a house. Now you have to earn 1.5 times, or 157% as of 2020, 152% as of 2023 to buy a house. So the median income is $68,000, give or take. So what you could buy for, for 87% of that was $45,000 or $50,000 in 2004. It's now you have to be earning $104,000 to buy a house. How insane is that? So while that's insane and that's horrible, guess who that's great for? Guess who that's great for? It's absolutely amazing for landlords that have made an investment into multifamily real estate, period. That's where it just makes sense. And the other cool thing, good for us, not so great for the rest of the country, is because of this excessive cost to buy a house, people need to rent, because remember, there's always more people. And now they need to rent, and the supply is dwindling because the cost of the houses are so high because it costs so much to build. And now since it costs so much to build, and it costs so much to have the money to build, to borrow the money to build, builders are not building. So supply is down, demand is up, rents go through the roof. So if you're a multifamily investor, and if you're getting into deals now, you have positioned yourself in an amazing place.
That last article, Chris, you were scratching the surface of it, but literally, there is a supply shortage on multifamily right now because they're cheaper than a single family house.
Yes.
And so we've got this surge of renters coming, essentially. Correct. And so as Chris said, it's a benefit for us as landlords, not so good for the potential tenants, but that's supply and demand at its finest right there. Chris, I need to spend a couple of minutes and talk about our multifamily property. If you guys would like to see a Class A beauty, put A in the chat. Class A beauty. This is an asset that we want to show you guys. Those of you that are thinking about investing into the right opportunity, this is one that I would strongly consider. Okay, this one, we don't have a ton of room left on it. We're going to be closing it up over the next couple of weeks, but let's take a look at it on the time being. So we'll put this one and this one.
You get them both. You get them both.
Oh, gotta hold this one. There we
There you
go.
go.
All right, so this is Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's a Class A asset called City Deck. Beautiful, beautiful property. It's on the
Big,
Fox.
beautiful property.
The big, beautiful, the BBP.
BBP.
Oh, goodness. Okay, big, beautiful property. It's a Class A building, home to 16 doctors and or surgeons. You've got retired athletes who have lived here. You've got a couple of pilots. I've toured every single unit myself. It is gorgeous, like just gorgeous property. And right now it's 100% occupied. And that's not a good thing. It's a good thing for us as buyers, but not a good thing for the seller.
Yes.
The seller obviously is undercharging on market rent, and that's why they've got a wait list. They've got a wait list so strong that they're actually moving people in and charging a full month's rent as a fee up front just to get in this property.
Just for the privilege of living there.
Yeah, it's quite insane. I've never seen that before in almost 20 years at
I like it.
places. So this particular one is open to accredited investors. What it means to be accredited is that your income is at least 300K as a household or 200K as an individual, or you've got $1 million net worth. If you're interested in exploring an investment opportunity, this is the one that I'd really think about diving into. Both Chris and I are personally investing in this one. Boom.
Big.
We love it.
Big.
Okay, Chris, let's talk just for a second about why this particular asset, what makes it good. We talk a lot about jobs, we talk about population, but when you guys are looking at deals, check this out. Okay, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Okay, why we love this one. Green Bay, Wisconsin was ranked #2 for the most high income earners moving to the city. For the last 4 or 5 years, all you heard about it was Sun Belt, Sun Belt, Sun Belt. People are moving to the Sun Belt. Well, hold on a second here. Green Bay ranked #2 for the most high income earners moving in. So the Class A tenant base, they're moving to this city right now. This is where they want to be. Chris, I know you don't want to be there because
Not me. I don't do cold. No, cold.
people like me that are from up north, I actually loved it. I loved my time in Green Bay. And it also was ranked #1 best place to live on 2023, and it's been in the top 10 list for almost a decade.
Yes.
So this particular asset, this particular city, it's got people moving into it, high income earning people moving in. It's got jobs, like it's got a plethora of things that are lifting it up.
Well, there's another thing too, right? So there's new public transportation from Chicago all the way to through Green Bay into Milwaukee. That's going to be connecting it. So Green Bay is going to become a suburb of Chicago with like a 48-minute train ride or something back and forth into the city. So boom, there's another reason that the property values and the rents are going to increase in Green Bay.
Yeah. So if you are an accredited investor, you're looking for an opportunity, we've got a little bit of room left on it, not too much. Our team has done a really good job filling up with all of our repeat investor commitments. But here's how it works. If you're investing $100,000, that's our minimum, you get a 70-30 split with us, meaning you get 70% of the pie, we get 30% of the pie. If you're investing $500,000 or more, you get 75% of the pie, we get 25%. If you're doing $1 million or more, which several of our investors have done on this one, then you get 80% of the pie, we get 20% of the pie. If you're wondering why we do these things, why we jump into buildings like this, we make a big piece of the pie. Yes, we do get paid some fees for acquiring the property, kind of like a real estate broker would, but our incentive is really that pie, the big chunk of it. That's where we build our wealth. It's where we fund our nonprofit stuff from. It's how we operate things here at HomeInvest.
Yeah, but we don't get the piece of that pie until we exit the property. And that means that it's our job to push the value, do everything we can to push the value of that property up as high as we can so there's a bigger pie for everybody to split. So when you do well, we do well. You don't do well, we don't do well. We don't play that game. We work hard between the acquisition and the disposition to build that property up so that it's to raise the value of that property as high as possible, to make you as much money as possible, because it serves us. And if we get served, we're able to affect the world in a positive way by using those profits to make a difference in people's lives. And one of the ways is what Nate opened the show with. You know, that's the money that comes from that. Is what allows us to have a benevolence fund to affect people's lives. And last night when they started talking about, you know, overcoming homelessness and people getting their children back as a result of being able to have that help to get into their own place, that's absolutely amazing. So we don't just invest for money, we invest for impact. And that's what you can be a part of in this deal.
If you'd like to invest for impact, then use the link that's in the chat. Book a 15-minute phone call with our team. We've got amazing advisors there. They all personally invest. They know this stuff. They're not some salesperson or anything like that. The last thing we want is some high pressure sales. We want to make sure that we have good mutual fits for long-term partnerships. If you don't see the link, then type the word call in the comments, CALL, and our team will send you a private message. Chris, that's all I got for this week, man.
That's all I got, baby.
All right. Thanks for joining the Opportunity Zone. We'll see you
God
next
bless. Thank you, everybody.